Welcome to another episode of Eat, Chit, and Dice, a fortnightly podcast about board games and sometimes food. I'm Jondi, and with me, as always, is...
Jared.
Yeah, you sound really excited. Is there a doctor in the house?
Doctor Who?
That's really stupid. So what are we talking about this week? What do you think?
We are talking about the 1987 Doctor Who role-playing game.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the year that it came out, but no, we're not actually talking about that. We're talking about like medical
games.
Mostly doctor games.
Yeah. Almost all doctor games, actually, except for one. But they're medically themed games. So I think we should just jump right in, Jared.
That sounds great.
So we started out with Pandemic Rapid Response, which is a new release, is it not, Jared?
It is, yes. And for the three people that didn't want me to leave that little plot point dangling, 1985.
Alrighty, that was good, close guess.
Yeah.
So Pandemic Rapid Response is a real-time dice game.
Sort of. It's real time, but you still have turns. It's still turn-based.
Right, it's turn-based, but it's real time because as soon as you flip over... So, okay.
Start at the beginning.
There
In
are
the beginning.
Locations all around the outside of the board. And there are different types of supplies that you're trying to collect to take to certain locations that are indicated by a card. It was a card, right?
Right, okay.
Yeah. So,
Yes,
there's an airplane.
The cities line the board. Yes, that part that you said is correct. The supply cards are placed on the cities depending on what the city is.
Right.
So like Bangkok, you might have to go there and be like, all right, we got to drop off.
And that'll indicate,
two
where
food,
we
a
need
water,
to go.
and a medicine.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, it indicates where we need to go and what we need to drop there. And then there are, like, I don't know, almost worker placement-ish places in the center of the board that you have to go to try to collect the supplies that you need. That's where the dice, the luck, comes in. You have to roll, like, dice in groups. Mm-hmm. So you can place one die to get something, but then, like, the next section you might have to be able to place 3 at one time or just 2 at a time. So you have to get the right symbols rolled on the dice in order to collect these components or these supplies that you need. And some of them are pretty difficult.
Yeah, so internally what's going on is you're inside of this rescue aircraft. And yes, there's different little workstations, like Jondi was saying, that require dice. They're not combinations, you're matching. So the medical supplies, like the bandages, which is indicated by a Band-Aid, when you roll the dice, you're trying to match these symbols. And you lock in your dice depending on what you're trying to go for. So,
right.
Like the bandages specifically, you can lock one die, nothing happens. The second die, nothing happens. The third die, you get 1 bandage cube. The fourth, you get 2 bandage cubes. And then the fifth is 3 bandage cubes.
And those ones you can all place as single die in that area?
Yes, on that one specifically. The water, however, you have to place 2
together in a group. So you have to have rolled 2 of the water droplets.
And then that gets you nothing.
Right, but they have to be there before you can go to the next group.
Then there's a group of 1 that gets you 2 water cubes.
Yes.
And then there's a group of 2 that gets you 3. So you have to place them in 2, 1, 2.
Yes.
The medicine is same concept, except that it's 1, then 3, then 1. The food is 1, then 2, then 2. And the electricity is 3, 1.
Oh yeah, the
and
electricity
1.
was the hardest.
That one is...
It was really hard.
It is difficult because you have to be able to lock in
3 at a time.
Yes. Whatever the required amount of dice is, you have to be able to lock them in at the same time.
Like one of the player abilities gives
There's
you
also
like
the
a
recycling
wild.
one.
Yeah. One of the player abilities gives you like a wild or whatever, and that was extremely helpful.
Yes, one of the characters you can assign if you roll the airplane die, which normally is used for moving,
yeah,
and also supply drop. You can assign it as if it were anything else.
Yeah.
Which is very useful.
So, but here's the catch: is that there's like it's a 2-minute timer.
It's roughly 2 minutes, yeah.
And when you flip that over, that my turn, Jared's turn, my turn, Jared's turn, however quickly we can roll those die, in that 2 minutes. So our turns take place in that 2 minutes. And that happens in a few rounds, but bad things happen at the end of the 2 minutes.
Yeah, as soon as the timer runs out, everything stops. All action stops. Everything stops.
Mid-turn.
You can't do anything. You can't strategize. You can't, I mean, it depends on how far you want to take
It's
this.
hard not to, but you're supposed to like
you're
not
not supposed
strategize.
to talk about the game at
Yeah.
all. All you're supposed to do is flip over the next city card, put it where it goes, remove one time token from the board, and if you're playing with the optional crisis cards, add one of those to the mix and see how badly it screws you over. Then flip over the timer again and then freak out and
Yep.
start again.
Yep. The time tokens, which we hadn't mentioned yet, kind of are important.
Yes.
Because if you run out of those,
Game over.
Game over.
There's two ways to lose this. It is a pandemic game.
Yes.
While it is not a pandemic game at the same time. But there's two ways to lose and only one way to win. Two ways to lose. You run out of time tokens or you run out of space to put your trash, basically. Because every time you're doing one of those actions that gets you components for...
You're generating
waste.
Yeah.
So if you want to make electricity, it makes waste. Don't ask me how that happens, but it happens. You want to make food, it makes waste. You can kind of mitigate that by going to the recycling center and putting dice that are different. They all have to be different.
One of each face.
And you can reduce it by whatever the amount is on the board.
So that's pretty much the game. I generally hate real-time games, but I love dice games.
And I hate Pandemic. That's not true.
Yeah, that is so not true. I wouldn't say, there are some real-time games. I like real-time games, as we've talked about many times.
They stress you out.
They stress me out a lot.
Yeah.
This one, it's fast-paced, but it's not so fast-paced that it stressed me out too much. And I think the fact that I really like dice games mitigated my dislike for real-time games.
Well, I think that it also helped that it was cooperative.
Yes.
So we could talk about like, okay, John D, what do we want to do? Hurry up.
That helped
you
a
rolled
lot.
those dice. Okay, I think you should do this. What do you want to do? Okay, we're doing that. Okay, great. Okay, now it's my turn and we're rolling. Okay, we're going there. We're going there. Okay, on your turn, if you do this, then
Yeah.
okay, time. Everybody stop.
Yeah, that helped a lot because in
That is
a
the pace
real-time
of the game as well, guys.
It really is. That is 100% the pace. In a real-time game that everybody's competing, those especially stress me out because I'm like trying to deal with this thing.
Yeah, like
and
Galaxy Trucker is our most famous example.
Yeah.
When you couldn't handle the stress, so you just dumped it back in the box.
Paramedics clear, I was out after a round and a half.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't dump my board, but I just said, nope, I'm done.
Yep.
And I stood up and walked away and
Yep.
went to another part of the room.
That would have been an episode in consideration for this
A
episode,
game
for this.
We
yes.
did consider that game for this episode.
But John D vetoed it because she was like, I don't.
Not two real-time games.
Yeah.
I mean, as it is, we're going to have to do a bunch all for one
We
episode
are,
at some
we
point.
are.
So that'll either be in our real-time game episode or it will be in a app-dependent game
Yes.
episode.
Yeah.
So Healthy Heart Hospital.
Oh,
Jared,
we're just done?
Or
We're just
no,
done with
I
Pandemic?
meant, I'm sorry. I meant Pandemic, Rapid Response. Jared, you really liked this one, right?
Yeah. Yes. So I pre-ordered it. It's only available at Target, at least in America. I have no idea what the situation is elsewhere. So if you're in Canada, I don't know how you get this game. No idea because
Right.
they don't have Targets anymore. I assume there's some other way you can get them if you're in Europe, some other through main distribution. I don't know. But yeah, in the United States, it is only available through Target for some marketing
amount of-
reason. I'm not sure what happened there.
I don't know. A lot of companies are starting to do that Target exclusive
They
thing.
are. But yeah, I pre-ordered it. It came in. It's gotten quite a bit of play already.
Yeah. When we played without the crisis cards,
Yep.
and we played once with the crisis cards, I think that the crisis cards make it a better game.
And then Kat and I have played it like 3 or 4 times without you.
So there you
Before
go.
then.
Yeah. I liked it okay. I mean, it's still a real-time game, so it's not going to be like the top of my list of games that I always want to play. But it is one that, especially for Pandemic, because it's not my favorite game in the world, I would actually play this one over Pandemic.
It plays really well at 2 players.
It does, yeah. While regular Pandemic kind of doesn't. I mean, it does. You can play it at 2 players, but
Yeah, 2-player.
it's rough.
It's fine, but
It's just rough.
this is better
Yeah.
at 2.
I honestly would play this one a lot more than I would a Pandemic. So take that as it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, if you want to get a copy of that, I'm not going to put a link anywhere because people will accuse me of getting Target gift card affiliate links or something, but you just go to Target. Just go to Target and buy it.
Yep.
Okay, Johnny, now you can talk about Healthy
Heart Hospital.
All right, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with shaming me or attempting to shame me? Because I do not feel shame.
Well, so Healthy Heart Hospital, apparently there are different versions now.
I think there's only one version now.
But the version that Jared has was the first edition.
Oh, yeah, like first printing. Okay, let's, to be fair, Victory Point Games does this with all of their games. This isn't, I didn't open the box and say, what the heck is this? I knew what I was doing.
Can I say what it is
Oh,
that
yes,
we're talking about?
I'm pretensing this.
Uh-huh.
I in no way felt ripped off.
So
John D
it's a
thinks
paper
that
board.
it is,
the board is made out of
it's
paper.
cardstock.
Okay, it's card. It's really thin.
It's
cardstock.
perfectly fine weight cardstock.
It is.
It's not a mounted
board. It is not a board.
It's perfectly serviceable. It's getting a little bit rough around the edges.
It's a dice, or it's a game where you have to draw things, blind draw things, and they can't even give you a bag, even a cheap, crappy bag to draw things out of. So, those are. I mean. I think these were some of the worst. It looked like a prototype on the table. Like, seriously, if somebody had not told me it was a published game, I would have thought that was a prototype that we were playing.
Now, if you buy a copy of this game now, it's a quote-unquote deluxe version. It comes in a proper box. It comes with a proper mounted board.
You know what's hilarious about that is...
and I don't know what the SRP is on the new version.
But you can get it for $35.
You can, from Amazon.
But you paid $60 for your crappy component version.
Yeah, I feel no regret about that. It's a great game.
It's a good game,
It's
but
an amazing game.
It's not a $60 experience. Especially not with horrible components.
I think you're putting too much emphasis. This is the problem, Johnny. This is why nobody liked the Wii U.
What does this have to do with the
They
Wii
didn't
U?
understand. They didn't understand the value.
I understand that it's
you
still
don't have
a game.
Wii U. You and Jeremy have just
we don't
a
buy
Switch.
a lot, yeah.
And now you get to rebuy all the games again for more money.
No, because we didn't ever own the games to begin with. But so I understand that it's still a game, and but to pay that much money for, I mean, what were they didn't need, there's no way they paid very much for the production of that game to begin with, and then they were charging $60. It's ridiculous.
Right, Victory Point Games doesn't have like a factory.
Nobody has a factory.
Well, no, I mean they don't have like they don't produce 10,000 units of a game.
A lot
when
of
they
companies
produce this,
don't.
they produce this like on demand.
Well,
like when you order this,
a piece of crap.
Now, not now, but in 2015 when I ordered it, they clicked a button, it went to a laser and went pew 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 pew, shot out all the pieces, and then it was mailed to me. Like 3 people work at this company. I don't know the exact number of people, but it's not some big fancy company that outsources everything to China and then it takes months for it to get there.
Well, I do not think that it is
This
worth
is a supply and
$60.
demand issue, John D. This
Don't
is
think
basic
it's worth
economics.
$60. I liked the
good
game.
news. You can
but
get,
I would never pay that much.
You can
for it,
get a mass-produced version for $35 on Amazon,
which is hilarious.
but it won't be the same. It will not be the same game that I have.
Well, that's a good thing.
Okay, now that we've done this thing that I said that I wouldn't have to edit 15 minutes of you ranting about the quality. Let's talk about the actual game.
Yeah. Okay.
So that I don't have to edit 15 minutes of you just complaining.
So I think it's a good game. The problem that I see with the game.
How does the game work, John D? What is the game?
So you're working in a hospital that is kind of crappy, and you're trying to make the hospital better. Mm-hmm. So you're playing as various doctors. You have cards that are your role cards, and every round there are going to be patients that come into the emergency room, and there are also like rooms in the hospital. There's like a cardiology room and a psychiatric ward, a trauma center. I can't remember what the other one is. Internal medicine.
Yep.
So you have to move patients. You have to try to move patients from the emergency room into the hospital, and they are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 being the sickest, and they're getting ready to die. 1 being almost well, and you're just trying to mitigate. If too many patients die, then it's game over.
Yes.
When you heal patients, you get money and prestige. And of course you get money because you healed the patient. It's time to bill them, right? Yeah. Thematically. So This is a really, really hard game when you play it on just its regular, just play the games by the rules. It is really, really hard.
Yes, it is a very difficult game.
I feel like, and I get a lot of cooperative games are difficult to win, but this one I felt like was a lot more difficult than most of the cooperative games I've played, to the point where if you're playing not on that tutorial mode on your first or second game, you don't really get a chance to experience everything that's available in the game.
Yeah, because
you die in like the second turn.
Turn 2, you're out of money, you're out of prestige, and you don't have anywhere to put the bodies because someone died, and you're so broke that you can't do anything about it.
Yes.
Yeah, that does happen.
So that is my problem with the game. On the flip side, there is a lot to this game, and if you're able to get it going and mitigate things at the beginning, then it's a really good game.
So it's an engine building game.
Yes.
The first phase of that is you have these ambulance cards. You flip over 2 of them. You bring people from the ambulances. They come into your triage area, into your waiting room. And
to do this, you're drawing. The cards will tell you how many cubes to draw.
yes, and it's from 4 to 7 cubes. So you blind draw that many cubes. You place them in your waiting room. Each row represents a patient, not each cube represents a patient.
Yes,
so if
so
you
like
draw 5
3,
cubes,
then
and
a
3
they're
of
the
them
same
are
color.
Yeah.
So like 3 yellows would be one patient that's at a number 3.
Yes.
If you draw 5 reds, then that patient
The guy
dies.
just dies. So obviously you don't want to leave these patients that are very sick and dying in the waiting room. So you admit them to the hospital. You move them into the wards. You can treat them in the wards also by blind drawing from. We were using a
Gloom coffee mug.
Gloom coffee mug.
It's quite fitting.
Anyway, yeah. Long story short,
so the way
cubes
that
come in,
yeah.
cubes get healed, cubes
And the way
leave
you're
and turn into
healing
money.
them is like if you're trying to heal a cardiology patient, they're red. So you draw 6 cubes out of the coffee mug in this case.
Which it can be more if you've got a doctor that's...
If you have a doctor that gives you extra cubes or whatever. But you draw the 6 cubes out and you're trying to draw red cubes. If you draw a black cube,
They get worse.
then the patient's getting worse. So,
Unless they don't.
So like if you draw a red cube and a black cube, then they mitigate each other. The patient basically got better and they got worse. So you're trying to draw red cubes and not black cubes. And so there's a lot of luck in this game, because even if you're not getting a lot of really sick patients, if you get bad draws,
Oh, yeah.
then it's game over, especially in the very beginning. If you get a lot of bad draws at the beginning of the game, then it's really going to mess you can't get the engine built. You can't get it, started.
Yeah, it can be really rough. You can get really unlucky at the very beginning.
Which I feel like we did the first time I played the game.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
late at night, so I was tired.
Yep.
And I was just really mad that it was so difficult. I was like, I honestly, the comment that I made was I felt like I didn't really get to experience anything about the game. If some patients came out, we moved some cubes, and then it was game over.
Yeah.
So all the other things that can really enrich this game, like the administrative tokens that let you...
Well, and the expansion wings, too.
The what?
The clinic, the operating rooms.
But we didn't get to do any of that.
No.
So you can expand the hospital. You can hire people that help you. You can do research and do help your doctors be better. But if you can't get that engine going at the beginning, you don't ever get to experience any of those other things that really do make this game shine.
Yeah, and just like in a real hospital, if somebody dies in the emergency room or anywhere, you got to pay for it. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, they shut you down. If you run out of places to hide the bodies.
To hide. Well,
They
you're
shut
not
you
hiding
down.
the body. You're
Well,
putting them in the morgue.
There's a
if
cemetery.
you run out of places in the cemetery or the morgue or whatever, then, whatever. But so, yeah, I liked the game. And I've basically said what my problems were. We played the second time that we played it through. We played it on the tutorial setting so that it would be easier.
Yeah, so Johnny could get more of a feel for it.
Yes.
I've played this game, I think probably the very first time I probably did play it on the tutorial mode. But so what the nice thing is about it is it doesn't matter how many, or maybe some people think this isn't a nice thing. It doesn't matter how many players you have. You're always going to have the same number of actions and doctors. So it works really well as a solo game. It works just as well as a 2-player game. I don't know that I would say, yes, technically you can play this with 5 players. Don't.
Really slow it down.
Don't.
Because
one or
can
two
be,
is really the good
right.
place.
There
for
can be
this.
a lot of AP in this game anyway. For those of you that don't know what it is, that's
Analysis paralysis.
thank you. My brain just completely.
Your brain was having AP.
It was having AP. So there is a lot of potential for, even though you only get 2 actions. There's a lot of different patients you can choose to treat or move, and so unless you have a quarterbacker player that's going to tell you what to do, which Jared can be, but he tries really hard not to be. So there can be some analysis paralysis. So 5 people could really slow the game down, I think. The ambulance cards are numbered 4 through 7. And I think it's kind of top heavy. There are more 6 and 7 cards than there are 4 and 5s. And I really, really honestly think it should be the other way around.
Well, I will say this. I know that they are working on an expansion, and maybe that'll
Be a fix.
have
I
something
feel like
you
that was
can-
a development issue. I honestly think it should be flipped there, because that's what makes the game almost impossible to win, is the fact that you've got more 7s coming out than you do 4s.
Right. And yeah, it is rough if you've got people in your waiting room, and
If you draw a black cube, you have to draw 2 more
yeah, you have to
extra
replace them.
cubes.
So I think the actual real strategy here is just do your best to never have anyone in the waiting room, and that's not possible.
No, it is not. We did it
But
once.
yeah, we did. We
Did do it once.
we had like 3 patients in the hospital.
We did.
No one in the waiting room, but some people in the clinic. We built the clinic.
We built the clinic.
Automatically get better every turn.
Yeah, the clinic's awesome. Build the clinic.
Yeah, build the clinic.
Build the clinic and build the research lab.
So it is possible to kind of optimize, but you're always going to be, because of the random draw, you're always going to be kind of just beholden to random. No, you gotta take it the other way. See how this one, Johnny's messing with her pop filter. There you go. That'll fall off immediately.
It's like loose.
It is loose. Yeah, I can see it loose. Yeah, there's not.
There we go.
Great, perfect. Anyway, yeah, Healthy Heart Hospital. I liked this game enough to have pre-ordered
like
it and
it.
bought from the first print run.
I do like the game. I've said what my problems with it were. I would honestly 100% play it again. I had fun playing it once I saw how the engine works. That first time that we played it, I didn't ever see how... We never got our engine started.
Yeah. And I will say this also. When and if this expansion does...
There is a non-official expansion.
There is one.
On
and
BGG.
Then, but I think some of the stuff from that is going to be rolled into the official expansion. But anyway, yeah, whenever that pops up, yeah, I'll probably rebuy the base game so that the components match.
Yeah.
Probably. It looks like about a month ago, someone said they asked if the expansion ever got an official release, and the designer of the game said that right now it's just a print and play. So
May or may not ever
it
happen.
may or may not ever appear. Having said that, if you do play this game and you love it, that expansion does exist. It's on Board Game Geek. Just go to the Healthy Heart Hospital page and...
Well, and the great thing is, if you have the
It's in
original
there.
printing, it won't matter. Your components will be the same.
The cards are fine, John D. The cards are fine.
Yeah, I will agree. The cards are fine.
There's nothing wrong with the cards. The only problem is the board. Your
the
biggest
paper
complaint
board.
is that the board is cardstock and not
Yep.
mounted.
Yep.
If I mounted
And
it
no
myself...
bag. And no bag. Like, they didn't give you a crappy bag for drawing out of.
To be fair, there's lots of games that require you to draw things randomly and do not come with a bag. And I don't know why.
I think more come with them than don't anymore.
This one I understand. I understand this because
You paid $60
this essentially
for-
was a print-on-demand product. If you go to Game Crafter and you print out your own game, it's going to be just as expensive.
Right. Anyway, I've complained enough about the components.
I agree. I think that you've complained more than enough
Yep.
about the components.
Okay. So, have anything else to say about Healthy Heart
Nope.
Hospital? Cool.
Okay, so this next one, there's a little bit of an elephant in the room that we need to deal with before we can really talk
Just a
about it.
disclosure, we're going to be talking about Bad Doctor from Mayday Games. I was an employee of Mayday Games until the beginning of July, and I did have some I was somewhat instrumental in a little bit of the development of the game and the rule book and the marketing of the game.
I did some play testing and helped out with some promo cards.
Yeah, he helped us come up with the concept for some promos, the Gen Con official promos.
So having said that,
we just wanted to disclose the fact that we had something to do with some of this, but it's a good game and we enjoy it. I will not tell you to buy it. I will tell you you can listen to our opinion, try it yourself, see what you think. Which really
honestly
like
you should
Bad
do
Doctor.
anyway.
Yeah. I really like Bad Doctor. It is a tile laying game in which you are playing doctors in a overcrowded, understaffed hospital. You're trying to treat and cure patients, but you're not real good at it. So generally when you treat a patient, you're going to make them sicker. So what you're trying to do is mitigate that and turf the sickest patients off onto the other doctors. Because if a patient dies on another doctor's shift and you tried to save them, it is not your fault.
Is this your memorized spiel?
Kinda, yeah. So if you manage to cure a patient on your turn, you get all the glory, and the other doctors, it doesn't matter if they visited that patient because they didn't cure them, so they don't get any points.
So my elevator pitch to this, to explain this to people was, all right, you work at a hospital, you're a doctor, you're not really good at your job, but you have to be just slightly better than everybody else because you want the patients to die, but you don't want them to die on your watch.
But you don't really want them to die.
Well, John, you kind of do.
So none of the patients in the game are like real. They're all funny illnesses, which and that brings me
like
to the
plumber's
art.
crack.
That's one of my favorite ones. So the artist for the game is a syndicated cartoonist. His name's Bill Holbrook. And he did a fantastic job of putting these tiles together so that as they're going together on your table, they kind of look like a comic strip. And plumber's crack is one of my favorites because it's got, this plumber, he's bent over, he's got the plumber's crack. And then in the background is a picture of the Grand Canyon. And I just thought that the little tiny background things in the art for this game is really fun. So when you're playing the game, you really want to pay attention to what's going on in the art because there's some really funny stuff. And plumber's crack's one of my favorite. But the patients are like plumber's crack and fractured syntax.
Con crud.
Yeah, that's one of them. That was from the Gen Con promo set. 2 left feet. There's one that says, we're sorry, your insurance ended at death, and it's like a ghost that's trying to be treated.
So it's not serious things. It's all goofy.
And it's just a tile.
You do want them to die.
Yeah,
John
so it's just a tile laying game. On your turn, you try to treat patients. You get 2 actions. There's always 4 patients on the board, and
unless there's more.
Occasionally, there can. In one instance, there can be 5. So you can only visit, unless you're using special actions, you can only visit 2 patients on a turn, and so the ones that you don't visit are going to get sicker. But then when you treat the patients, a lot of times you're going to add more maladies to them. So
you're still making them worse.
You're still making them worse. So I really like it. You're just matching symbols, and there's little doctor markers that show if you like who was the one that matched those symbols together. So the game plays, even with 4 people, it's like 40 minutes or less. And I really enjoy it. Even having demoed it a gazillion times, I still enjoy sitting down and playing it. And I think that says a lot about the game.
Yeah, and that's really all we can say about the game. Because, as mentioned before, we can't... So there's lots of other doctor games and medical games. There's tons of them. The problem was that the other game that was on the list that could have been in place of this was Paramedics Clear, which John D. immediately said, no, I don't want to play more real-time games. Mm-hmm. And there was also another game from a Korean company that we ended up not playing just because...
We were having trouble getting through the rulebook and we were tired.
Yeah. So it's like the third batter up.
Yeah.
So don't...
we didn't just jump out there and say, hey, let's talk about this game that John D. had something to do with.
Yeah.
I was not a designer or anything. I mostly just did the marketing and played through the prototypes several times to make sure everything worked. But still, I worked for the company. So that's pretty much all we can say. It's a cool game. Check it out if you want. Or don't. I'm not your mom.
Great, John D.
But
unless Katie's listening.
Well, it's true. So moving on. We also played a game called Medical Frontier.
Yeah, and okay. First things first about this. If you want to buy a copy of Medical Frontier, it's called Pocket Pharma now. It's not called Medical Frontier anymore. I don't know exactly what happened. Another company publishes it now, but
Didn't
we're going
you
to talk
say
about...
Pocket Pharma's different, though?
Pocket Pharma is different, but it's the same game. It's like the difference between Camel Up and Camel Up version 2.
Oh, okay.
Like suddenly now there's a whole bunch of new mechanics and I don't know what's going on, and there's a camel that goes
Right.
backwards for some reason.
Yes.
But anyway, Medical Frontier is what we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
I don't know anything about the new version of the game other than it exists.
Yeah. So the first thing we noticed when we started playing, and this was just a fun thing, we're like going through the rule book and there's a bear symbol on it. And we're like, is that the real bear symbol? And it was. And there's like a link to medical ethics on Bayer's website in the rule book. So thinking maybe Bayer had something to do with this in some way, shape, or form, because their logo's all over everything.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if they got money.
I don't know. It was a WTF for us. We're just like, okay. So that was just something fun starting out. So
how does the game work, John D? It's a drafting game, sort of. It is a drafting game.
It's a drafting game that has been built.
A deck builder? Drafting game?
The game's been billed as a worker placement, and
It's
it is
not. No.
It is absolutely not a worker placement. It is a drafting and set collection game. Straightforward drafting and set collection. It's not a deck builder either. It's set collection.
Well,
you're not building a deck.
You're building 3 different poker hands, kind of.
But it's not really a deck.
No,
It is set collection. It's 100% set collection. You're trying to collect.
Well, I don't know, John D. It's worker placement because you got to spend your $500 million.
I said worker placement and no, it's not. It's not worker
It's
placement.
not worker placement.
It's card drafting and set collection. But okay, so there are Jared. You describe this one.
Okay, in the full game, there's 4 different kinds of medicine that you were trying to figure out. You can play a quick game that's 3. So you've got a cancer drug, psychiatric drug, neurologic medicines, and cardiovascular. So they all function differently in terms of what you need to collect to get them. So like the neurologic medication, in order to do the research on that, you need a straight. In order to do the cardiovascular, you need 2 pair and another card. In order to do the cancer, you need 4 of a kind and another card. For the psychiatric, you need 3 of a kind and then 2 other cards. So what you're doing is on your turn, you'll allocate money, which are the worker cubes that are not workers, to either draw a card, play a card from your hand into one of the sets, turn in the sets to do a research, which is where you would actually score those poker hands. You can then, from that step, go and do a clinical trial where you need to see what kind of side effects you might have. And the cards that you collected earlier will have symbols on them. And you don't know what they are. The first time someone does this, it's revealed. And, oh, look at that. You need to not have any stomach aches. And you don't have any. Great. So you can move on to the next step where you have to do the clinical trials. And here's this mysterious thing is released. Oh, and the drug efficacy needs to be a certain threshold. And okay, congratulations, you managed to get there. I might have those backwards, but
it's a game that is actually
there's so much going on in this, but also so little.
Yeah, the process of making a drug in real life.
It's actually really amazing. But
the components are talking about crappy components. This was really bad components. Like they make your cardboard board look way good.
The thinnest chipboard that I've ever seen in my life.
I didn't know chipboard existed. That was that thin. It was about the thickness of cardstock. Maybe just like slightly thicker than cardstock.
Now this was published by a Taiwanese company. I want to say I got it from one of those like mule services from Essen or something like that. I don't actually know where or why I have this.
It's a cool game. My thing is like when in the production of the game, they made a board that is just like where you place the 5 cards in the center.
Yeah, the new version doesn't have that.
Which is good. Like they could have not done the board and then had slightly better components.
Yeah. The board doesn't do
superfluous.
anything. Well, the board holds. So you put out 5 cards. You put them on that board. The board then also holds the draw deck, the discard deck, and it also has like a little reference for what those symbols mean.
Yeah.
But
You don't really need the
doesn't
reference.
Really do much for you.
So now that Jared has described the game itself, I want to jump in with the big thing that we ran into that I felt like was a little bit of a problem.
I am not 100% convinced that we were allowed to do this, but I couldn't find anything in the rules that said we weren't.
Nope. So there is no mechanic for trashing cards in the center, which I think is an oversight of the designers, because usually when you're playing a game where there are cards that you are like buying or collecting from the center, there is almost always a mechanic to trash cards.
Whether they fall off because nobody buys them after a certain amount of time, or just a player spends an action to do it.
Yes, something.
This doesn't have that. So it was a lot of, well, I don't want any of those cards. John D, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, we did a lot of that.
Looking back, that was stupid, because all that we were doing was, I need a 10, you need a 10. There's no 10s out. I don't want to refresh this because there could be a 10 and then you're going to take it. So I'm just going to refuse to
Except
do
for
anything.
the problem is, if you get 5 cards in your hand, then you can't get rid of those cards unless you just put them in one of your sets.
You can take them out of the set. You can pay to play a new card and trash one out of the set.
Yeah.
So there's nothing bad about just doing that, but we didn't do that. We just
kept passing, trying to force the other person to take cards they didn't want. So that's my big complaint, is there really needs to be a mechanic.
But
in
that
the
was
game
more
for
of
trashing
us.
cards.
That was us just being
that part of it
buttholes.
was, but there still really needs to be a mechanic for trashing cards. I think that it would be a little bit fixed if you were playing the game with 4 people instead of 2.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
more cards would be coming out
Yeah.
of there. But I still think that you would run into the issue where nobody wants the cards and somebody really wishes they could just spend money to trash some cards.
Now there's I don't know, a percentage of a chance that this is fixed in the redesigned English and updated version. But yeah, this was a problem. But the turn order also is weird. We could have taken advantage of that.
The turn order is really interesting.
The turn order changes.
So you lay out, like, you have like these arrow tokens of your color, and you randomly are they go into a line, and so if there's 2 people, there's a purple player and a red player, then they're going to be randomly put out. So red could go twice in a row, and then purple, and then red could go twice in a row again. And then when you go, you move your action thing to the bottom. So that's always determining the player order.
So potentially we could have gone, okay, it's your turn, and then it's going to be my turn twice. So on my first turn, I'm going to buy these cards to make room for cards. We could have done that.
We could have.
We didn't do that.
Yeah. So there's the quick version.
It was just a lot of us purposely
passing.
This is not a take that game.
But there is, as with almost any drafting game, there is that possibility for hate drafting. I did it once to Jared.
Yes, you did. You took that 7 that I needed. You didn't need it at all.
No, I took a 10 that you needed.
10? Was it 10?
You took a 7 I needed.
That's right. I took the 7 as revenge.
Yep. So there is that potential for hate drafting, which I am fine with. I liked the game. I think that, really that's my only complaint, is the not being able to trash cards. It's a fun game. It's cool. I don't know that I've played another game quite like it.
It's very
before.
interesting.
So I think that's great about the game, is that they actually managed to bring something a little bit unique to the gaming table.
So yeah, like I was saying, if you try to get a copy of this game, I don't know that you can. You can get the re-implemented version, which is called Pocket Pharma, which does list itself as card drafting, hand management, and pattern building, which I
would agree with.
The components look very different. I don't know that this is enough of the same game to be the same game, but I will say this, and how's this for a segue, John D? The publisher of Pocket Pharma is also the publisher of the next game on our list.
That's a great segment.
Although I don't know anything about Pocket Pharma.
So, the next game we want to talk about, John D likes dice games, and this one is Dice Hospital.
Dice Hospital!
So, Dice Hospital.
Super love this game.
I really liked it a lot. It's a dice game. Jared, you're better explaining this one.
Yeah, okay, so here's how it works. If you just imagine in your head what a hospital would look like if it were a beehive.
That's such a good way to describe it.
Well, I don't know. It's like this hex board that you have that is your starting tile. I don't know. Anyway, it's hexes, but it's not individual hexes. It's like 12 hexes that you start
Yeah.
with that are all together. So that's
Yeah.
your hospital. You can expand by buying new. Well, you don't buy them; you just get them. So at the
You draft
beginning,
them,
you
kinda?
do draft
Yeah.
them. So at the beginning of a round, you're going to take a certain amount of dice out based on how many players there are.
They go into ambulances.
They do go into ambulances. Then you will pick the ambulances. You'll draft the ambulances. You'll take the dice that are attached to those ambulances, bring them into your hospital. Once they're in your hospital, you play a worker placement game to heal them. So let's say you've got like a 3 green die. Okay, well, you want to get that guy to a 7.
Yep.
Now, on a 6-sided die, how could you ever get to 7?
We heal them one more time.
You heal them up to 6 and then heal them again. That's right, John D. So the entire core gameplay here is using your workers in the best possible way to heal as many patients per turn as you can to get them to 7 to discharge, because it is scored not based on, let's say I got 3 guys out. It scales up like Ticket to Ride. So instead of scoring 3 guys, you might get 4 points. And well, if you get 7 dudes out, that's like 15 points. So
It's really hard to get.
it is.
To build up and heal that many in one turn. It's
It
really
can be
hard.
very difficult. But if you can manage it, you might get a lot more points than whoever you're playing against.
And Jared did twice.
Well, it's fine. I always find these weird strategies in worker
You
placement
do.
games
You
where
do.
I plan out like 3 moves in advance, so I know, okay, if this happens, then I need to do this.
Yep.
Now, not saying that I would win every game of this. That would be ridiculous. But usually I can get to a point where I'm like, okay, I've got my engine built pretty well. I broke our friend Max's game that he was designing. He was designing an engine building game, and I found some bizarre strategy that basically got me infinite points.
It's an engine building deck builder. Yeah, that you totally broke it.
So I just key in on things in this kind of
do.
game.
You do. So some of the things I love as the game progresses, you have a lot more decisions to make in your turn, which can give you analysis paralysis, but there's so much more strategy as the game goes on. So I really like the fact that it starts out pretty light and easy, and then it gets more difficult and it gets more difficult. But if you're really mitigating things well, you might be able to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
Because you can really think about, okay, if I don't heal this guy right now and he gets worse, or I can maybe next turn I can do this other thing. So there's a lot of strategy to it for a game that has that looks like it's going to be a light theme. The art would indicate a very light game, and it's still not like some like heavy Euro or anything, but there is a lot of strategy to it, and I liked that about it.
Yeah, you can only ever have 12 people.
Yes.
12 dice in your patient pool. So if you need to bring in more people and you don't have room, oops, somebody dies.
Yep.
And that's negative points.
Negative points. Yeah. The game's real fiddly, but I didn't mind because I was enjoying playing the game. I felt like the game design, like the theme and the game design, I felt like the mechanics of the game really could work with any theme, but they did a really good job with some of the different some of the different hexes that you can get to add to your hospital. They did a really good job of making those really scream the theme and really, really kind of nail that theme in there. Like there was one card that I just really kind of made me think that I don't know. I can't talk anymore apparently. What was that card? What was the hex? It was Drug Trial Center.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Drug
You thought
Trial
that one was
Center.
really cool.
So it wasn't necessarily a card that you're just like, oh, this is a great ability. I just felt like thematically it was really, really well done. It was a drug trial center, and it lets you re-roll 2 dice. But it's a crapshoot. You could be re-rolling a die, and you're gonna
make them better or
make them
worse.
better or worse. And I felt like for a drug trial center, I thought that was like the perfect ability for that room.
Yeah, it was cool.
And a lot of the rooms are like that, and I thought that they did a really, really good job at doing that.
I'm not sure that I could think of another theme off the top of my head that this would work so well for. Maybe some kind of ant farm game or bee game. I know I made a joke about it looking like a beehive, but I think there could be something there. I'm not sure. But the theme works really well for what it is. And if you were to tell me you can only play one hospital game ever again, it would probably be this one.
Out of all the ones we've played,
Yeah.
I would probably pick this one because it's fun.
I really like this one
I
a
did
lot,
too.
John D.
I do too.
Really like it. And this was a complaint that I had, and I'm sure that there's nothing that can be done about it. As you grow the hospital, you can either get a new worker on a turn or a new room on a turn. And I was like, man, if there were a room that you could get that was another ward and you could like get 3 more patients or even 1 more patient, that would be cool. There's not one of those.
There's not one of those.
There is an expansion coming.
So who knows? Maybe that will be a thing.
Well,
It probably won't be a thing.
so here's the deal, John D. The Kickstarter launches July 9th. And it is improving the game you love. I don't know what that means. Better value for the money. Don't know what that means. Kickstarter free pack. It will not be in retail. So, Kickstarter normal bonus. 5th player extension. And a helicopter mini.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the deal. There's 3 expansions, 3 like modular expansions. The city expansion, where the intake phase is now replaced by a set of city tiles where you use your ambulances and paramedics to collect patients. So instead of just random dice drafting, now you can collect patients.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. There's a maternity expansion that comes with a normal-sized pink mother die and baby die.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
And now, here's what might fix the problem that I had that wasn't really a problem. I just thought it would be cool. Improvement expansion with, check this out. This expansion allows for almost unlimited customization. Players will be given woof. Players will be given a free to visit worker placement board. So my brain tried to make that something else. So it's a worker placement board that you can visit for free. But I was trying to, I don't know what my brain was trying to make sense of the sentence. You can pick up room improvements specific to a color of your choice. So rather than it being a random draft for tiles, you can purchase them. I don't know. Will it come with more intake wards? Probably not, but maybe. Maybe it will. We'll find out in like a week or so.
Yep.
I really enjoyed this game. There's some stuff that's like quote unquote Kickstarter exclusive that I don't think you would need to track down. So in the normal retail version of the game, the ambulances are little dice cards that you they're just for looks.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter bonus was resin ambulances that actually the dice fit inside of. So that's pretty cool. But you don't need that. And then
Nah.
it came with like 2 extra cards and
One of
wooden
them
tokens.
was super broken.
Yeah. Wooden tokens to replace the like dead guys and blood bags, which we didn't talk about, but they give you a bonus. You might get them if you're
I didn't get a lot of them.
unfortunate in the drafting phase. I really like this game a lot.
I do too.
A lot.
Yeah.
I want to play it right now.
Well, I like worker placement games and I like dice games.
Yeah.
And both of those mechanics are right there in this game. So
I like weird themes. I like worker
Yeah.
placement. I like dice.
Yep. This is one that I don't own and I probably will try to change that.
Well, John D, the Kickstarter that's coming probably will have an opportunity for people to get the base game.
Probably.
Now, I don't do this very often. I think I've only done this like once, but I'll probably tweet about it once the Kickstarter is live because, it's exciting and we've just talked about the base game. So look for that on our Twitter. That's the only one that I do anything with. John D does the other stuff.
Yep.
So we'll maybe...
And I probably won't remember to do that.
Yep. Well, speaking of Kickstarter.
Yes.
Speaking of Kickstarter, does Jeremy have Shovel Knight, the video game Shovel Knight?
I think so.
Okay, well, there is and I don't know how this works. I mean, I do know how it works because I looked at it. I don't know how this works. A competitive side-scrolling board game.
Side-scrolling board game.
Yeah, side-scrolling
Okay.
board game. based on Shovel Knight. It's called Shovel Knight Dungeon Duels. I'll get to the bad thing here in a second, but yeah, let me just talk about this. Okay, so you get 4 knights, 4 shovel knights. Then you get the bad guys, which if you have not played the game, none of this is going to mean anything to you. And if you do have played the game, then you already know about the Plague Knight and etc. So you get those, so that you're already at 8 miniatures. Then you get a lot of other bad guy miniatures. What is this? 8, 8, 6, and 6. You get some dungeon tiles and a tile tray to kind of help you move them along. A rule book, woo, and a bunch of cards, dice, tokens, etc. Here's the problem. There's one pledge level. It's $70.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of minis and stuff. It looks like a $70 game.
So the way the game works is it's a side-scrolling adventure game. So you roll the dice, you move around, you fight monsters. The tiles, you play tiles to the side, and it moves, sort of, kind of. I mean, it doesn't, but use your imagination. So here's the issue. $70 plus shipping.
Oof.
Yeah, oof is right.
I imagine it will not be a cheap game to ship.
Estimated shipping prices for the U.S., $15 to $25.
Yep.
These are rough estimates. I don't know, guys. I love Shovel Knight.
Don't know if you love it for $100.
I backed the original Kickstarter. I've bought it 3 other times since then. I've bought the amiibos. But man, this is a tough sell. This is tough. $70 plus maybe $25 shipping.
So you're paying nearly $100.
Yeah, you are.
For a game that you may or may not like.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I don't know.
They're depending really, really hard on the license here.
Yes. Now, I will admit, this does look really cool.
I don't know anything about the game, but I will say that the Kickstarter campaign is really well put together.
Mm-hmm.
And the minis look like, if they turn out looking the way that they're showing them, they're fantastic looking.
I mean, you might as well just like pop an amiibo chip into these things and call them the new amiibos, because they look
they're very
good.
The 3D renders of them do.
Yeah.
And I would imagine in most cases the 3D renders, the minis come out looking pretty much that way. So
yeah, it's just
they look really nice. But yeah,
high price.
That's a pretty high price. I will not be backing it, and I will not be telling Jeremy that it exists.
Oh, that's maybe a good idea. I'm backing it, but
for now,
yeah. I mean, guys, it's a lot of money for a bunch of miniatures.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a game in there.
You can hope.
Yeah.
One can hope.
But, I know a lot of people are huge fans of Shovel Knight. I'm one of those people. I'm not good at the game. But if you love old school pixel art video games, you should at least
board games too.
You should at least check out the video game, and then also maybe check out this Kickstarter. I don't know, but it is pricey. You do get a lot of stuff, but man, can you imagine? All right, let's say you pass on this. It looks like the only Kickstarter exclusive thing is Shield Knight.
But also, this company it's not a company where I think it's going to be in general distribution that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
They've done one other game and I've never heard of it, so I don't think that it's in general distribution because it's not like I've seen every game out there or anything, but
well, it's a miniatures company. It's a company that makes miniatures, and they've made one other game that used the miniatures to play the game. So they know what they're doing in terms of minis.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think if you want this game, now's the time to do it because it's probably not going to show up like in your friendly local board game store.
Now, having said that, there is also a chance that this will be $40 on Amazon in a year.
I mean, you always run that risk when you're backing things on Kickstarter.
That's true.
I mean, you run that risk when you buy a game at a game store.
Yeah, I run that risk when I buy a print-on-demand board game for $60 and then it's $35 5 years
Yeah.
later.
I mean, you run that risk anytime you buy something, especially if you buy it at full price. But, that's for you to decide.
But it looks great.
It does.
It looks great.
Not knowing anything about the video game, I will agree it does look pretty.
Knowing
very
more
pretty.
than I should about the video game, it looks great. John D, did you know that during the original Shovel Knight Kickstarter, you could get a bunch of dirt?
I did not. Okay.
Yep.
Well, on that note,
On that note, John D, until next time,
you can eat chit and dice.
bye. Eat Chit and Dice is an independent production of Swin Media and is distributed under a Creative Commons license, attribution, non-commercial, share-alike 4.0 international. Yeah, here it is. Official Shovel Knight dirt signed by the Yacht Club. Own a real piece of the Shovel Knight saga. At this reward level, we will hand sign and deliver a handsome wax-sealed envelope filled with official Shovel Knight dirt. We have obtained dirt, at no small expense, mind you, from each area of Shovel Knight's kingdom. Gearwork dirt from the base of the Clockwork Tower, besmirched dirt from the Village of Plague, and more. The dirt you will receive will be chosen at random, but trust us when we say that all of the dirt is very special. Get it fast, because when it runs out, it's gone. We're not made out of dirt here. People bought this. 50 people bought a $100 dirt. 77 people bought a $101 dirt. Hand-signed dirt.